All right, we have a quorum.
Yes, we do.
Call to order the San Bernardino International Airport Authority regular meeting. Today is Wednesday, January the 26th, 2022. And it is approximately 3:02 p.m. If I could have our clerk please do a roll call.
Yes, members on the line from the city of Colton.
Frank Navarro.
Dr. G is here.
Thank you. Members here from the city of Loma Linda.
Dusty Rigsby.
Thank you. Member from the county of San Bernardino, 3rd District.
Dawn Round.
Thank you. Members from the city of Highland.
Penny Lilburn and Larry McCallum, alternate.
Thank you. And members from the city of San Bernardino.
John Valdivia.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. I don't see any closed session items today, Mr. Burrows?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Moving on items to be added or deleted.
No items.
Okay, thank you. Conflict of interest. Anybody need to declare a conflict of interest on any items on the agenda? Seeing none and hearing none, we'll move on to discussion items. Mr. Burrows?
So our first
informational items. I'm sorry.
Info items. Yeah, thank you, sir. So on a few updates here, the very first one I want to draw your attention to is one that Mr. Huber drafted for you, and so I'm going to let him take it from there regarding the meeting format. Scott? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. We before you is an item that will allow SBIAA to meet in a remote format, given some of the recent uptick in the coronavirus and in the Omicron variant, if I'm saying that correctly. By passage of, as you'll recall, there was an executive order that allowed meetings to be held remotely. That executive order has expired. The legislature did enact AB 381 or 361, which one is it? 361, which allows remote meetings to continue. You do have to make certain findings, and the findings are contained in the staff report. Essentially, the findings are that based on the current state of public health, you find a need to meet in an online setting and provide that opportunity. With that, you do also have an obligation, should this pass, that for subsequent items, that you allow public comment by the same remote methods that you allow individuals to utilize the meeting, to attend the meeting. So, with that, if the request is that the board or that the commission approve the and make the proposed findings that are in the staff report, and that you allow public meetings by remote attendance as outlined in AB 361.
Scott, do you need a vote or consensus?
No, you do need a vote. You need a motion and a second and a vote.
Okay, so any comments or questions from commissioners on this item?
And Mr. Chair, to be clear, at the moment, because this has not passed, this is just a vote among those that are present here. We do have a quorum present. Yeah, I want those that are online to understand.
Right, and I think that they've been advised.
Yep. Okay.
Supervisor Rao, you've been advised on that?
Yeah. Yep.
Yes, sir.
Thank you much. So anyway, any public comment on this item?
There's no public comment.
No public comment? Okay, thank you. Chair will entertain a motion to approve. Motion from Mayor Valdivia.
Second.
Second from Mayor Lilburn. Do a roll call vote, please, Madam Clerk.
Please state your vote for the record. Member Navarro?
Yes.
Member Rigsby?
Yes.
Member Lilburn?
Yes.
Member Valdivia?
Yes.
And Member Charette?
Yes.
Okay. And just for the record, Member Charette did arrive a couple of minutes ago.
3:03 p.m. Right, looks like the item passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, so if it pleases the commission, there's a couple other updates that I want to draw your attention to, and the next will be Mr. Gibbs. As you all know, airports have a busy December and January because that's when we prepare all of our operational data to submit to the FAA. And thankfully, as we do every year, those were timely filed. And Mr. Gibbs has some highlights from that. So Mark, if you could take us away here.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, to Mike's point, each year we report out the full calendar year results across many of the activity business lines taking place at your airport. And we also share these with the FAA as well as industry partners, but these become available to everyone. And a lot of these results come from our air traffic control tower. And in the first one, if you could go to the first page, Jennifer, this is an overall snapshot of the total number of landings or takeoffs that took place at the airport during 2021. There we go.
Okay, thanks.
So you see, overall at the airport in 2021, we experienced a decline in the total number of aircraft landing and taking off. However, it's also important to note that that's not the complete picture. What we saw was the airport's flight school decline quite a bit in their activities here. But at the same time, we saw a pretty significant shift in the fleet mix. So as we get into some of the further slides, you'll see what I mean by that. So the next slide, this is our ranking. So in the United States, there's currently 522 operating control towers, of which San Bernardino is now, we don't hire the staff for the control tower. It's the FAA that does that. And that benefits the airport and its users in a lot of different ways. But it helps us on the cost side most significantly. But overall, we saw a decline in that for the first time since 2012, our ranking nationally. And that's the total number of aircraft taking off or landing at San Bernardino. But if you dig a little bit deeper, and the next slide will show you what I mean by the shifting fleet mix at the airport. So these are essentially corporate-sized aircraft, light or heavy corporate jets, if you will. So what we saw is quite a significant uptick in the number of corporate aircraft using your airport. This was our best year in that category of aircraft overall. And the next slide, this is commercial aircraft. Again, we saw another increase in the number of commercial aircraft. And this is an interesting number because one of the things that occurred this last year was a very, very light Forest Service season, yet we still continued to see a significant jump in commercial aircraft operations. And to put that in perspective, what I mean by Forest Service aircraft, in 2020 we experienced 1,700 flights by heavy aircraft at Forest Service, and in 2021 we had a very light season. We only had 500, yet our number of commercial aircraft continued to increase in 2021. No mystery to anyone, on the next slide you'll see the growth in air cargo activity at the airport. This is a very interesting slide. When people think of the growth in cargo at SBD, they often think of Amazon, but the reality is UPS's operation and FedEx, to a lesser extent, have significant operations at your airport. So Amazon began with one flight a day in late April. By June, they were still only operating 3 flights, yet we still saw a very large increase, almost doubling where we stood in 2020. And so 2022, we'll continue to see this growth trend, at least for the foreseeable future, and we're pleased to report that out to you. So where do we rank nationally in air cargo? This next slide shows you the number of airports in the country that serve all freighter aircraft. You can see as late as 2017, we were essentially dead last in the country. Contrast that, fast forward to 2021, that really did not include a full year of Amazon Air operating. You can see we're estimating to jump to number 35 in the country. So we're seeing strong growth trends continue in air cargo, both in the amount of landed weight and as a ranking nationally. And that's an important one because it also helps us in our grant entitlement funds from the FAA. That's another important consideration. And lastly, this shows where we stand on international flights, and we saw another strong year in growth for international flights, eclipsing that threshold Mike and I have been looking for a long time, which is we wanted to see 365 flights, so they're at least clearing one a day, and we kind of pushed through that that important threshold for us personally. But it's exciting to see that growth trend continue, and it's exciting to see it continue throughout all of our different business lines. But again, I think the takeaway from this year's activity is that there is a continuing shifting fleet mix towards larger aircraft at your airport. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Thank you, Mark. Any comments or questions from Commissioner?
No, thanks, Mark, and I want you to know Mark did triple check that number up there, so. Last but not least, Mr. Cousineau and our Finance and Budget Committee had a good meeting here shortly before this, and appreciate our committee members for your time. Mark, any comments?
Thank you, Mike. I'll be very brief. We had a really good report. Revenue and expenditures are where we expect them to be. No huge surprises anywhere, so that's good news. And that we will be bringing some further agenda items this meeting for new operational needs that we identified. And that we also had a presentation by our external auditors with good results, and that will be discussed in item number 16 and presented by our external audit firm, Rogers, Anderson, Malady, and Scott, also known as RAMS. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, and that's all of our reports there.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item H on the agenda it's commission consent items, number 3.
Second.
I have a motion by Mayor Valdivia to move, and a second by Councilmember Rigsby to move the consent calendar, items 3 through 13. Madam Clerk, would you please do a roll call vote?
Yes, I have a motion by Member Valdivia and a second by Member Rigsby, correct? Alrighty. Members, please state your vote for the record. Member Navarro?
Yes.
Member Rigsby?
Yes.
Member Rao?
Yes.
Member Lilburn?
Yes.
Member Valdivia? Yes. And Member Schrodt? Yes. Thank you. That passes unanimously.
Thank you very much, Commission. Moving on to Commission action items, item I. Item number 14, to consider and adopt the proposed budget adjustments for fiscal year 21 and 22. Mr. Mark Cousineau, please.
Thank you, Mayor. We're asking the Commission to consider and adopt proposed budget adjustments for this fiscal year. We have 3 adjustments that are between the general and capital project funds. The aggregate appropriation increase overall is $117,250. That is offset in part by new estimated revenues, an increase of $50,000 for a net increase to appropriations of $67,255. There's basically 3 items. The first item is the general fund, and that is related to agenda item number 17. And that is an increase in professional services for engineering. That is a $50,000 increase in appropriations offset by estimated increase in revenues related to providing services for the San Manuel landing project at the airport, where we'll expect to get some reimbursements and/or permit fees, as well as some additional professional and engineering services for road and construction work around our utilities on the airport. That is a 0 net change overall for the general fund. Our next one is between the capital projects and general funds, and that is item number 20. And that is for IT equipment, communications, and network improvements. We're asking for a decrease to the general fund account 50261, decrease in appropriations of $100,000, and then do a intra-fund transfer to the capital project fund account 52579, network improvements of $100,000. That is a $0 net change overall. And that particular budget request is to fund network infrastructure that has become technologically obsolete, and it is actually our network core switches. And then the third item is a general fund item related to agenda item number 19, and that is for our overall increase in appropriations to account 50439 wildlife management. We have increased wildlife management services as we've changed some of the habitat, both on airport or adjacent to the airport, that we have increased aircraft activity. Those two are coming together and requiring us, the airport, to take further wildlife management action. This total increase is $67,255 increase. It is comprised of a $53,155 increase in scope of services for LSA Associates. That's in agenda item number 19, as well as an additional $14,100 to fund the initial contract that was approved by the commission on June 23rd, 21. If there are any questions on this, I'd be happy to answer them.
Comments or questions from commissioners? Seeing none, hearing none. Any public comment on this item, Madam Clerk?
No public comment.
Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion.
Second.
I have a motion to approve from Mayor Valdivia and a second from Councilmember Rigsby. Madam Clerk, if you would please take roll call vote.
Again, we have a motion by Member Valdivia and a second by Member Rigsby. Please state your votes for the record. Member Navarro?
Yes.
Member Rigsby?
Yes.
Member Rao?
Yes.
Member Lilburn?
Yes.
Member Valdivia? Yes. And Member Charette? Yes. Thank you. The item passes unanimously.
Thank you. Moving on to item 15. This is to receive and file an update to the San Bernardino International Airport Authority Personnel Policy. Catherine Pritchett, please.
Good afternoon. Many of you from the IVDA days may have heard this presentation as we keep our policies and procedures for both agencies consistent. As our team grows, it's very important for us to maintain updates that Scott believes are reasonably legally defensible, yet easy to be understood by staff and implemented by admin. So throughout the year, we do make updates to these policies and procedures. This past year, the only policy that was significantly modified was the personnel policy. The entire document was reviewed to help with information flow and subject matter cohesiveness. Throughout the document, we also removed any subjects that had to do with probationary periods, as SBIAA employees are at will, and that language was redundant or against that philosophy. Specific revisions that were made were to Chapter 3, which sets forth standards of conduct. Language was added regarding general workplace behavior and expanding the definitions of bullying. Chapter 7, related to our benefits, added the provision of modified light duty as a return to work accommodation for workers' compensation claims. Chapter 9 was modified in two separate sections, first regarding overtime compensation for employees who do elect to participate in either the 980 or the 410 modified work week. And the second was an overhaul to our holiday compensation policy from a traditional policy to a front-loaded policy. Staff from the City of Colton was instrumental in helping us develop that, and we thank them as it's really pertinent to our operations. I would also like to share that our COVID-19 prevention plan was updated yet again and is available to staff. And also in regard to personnel, we will be flying a number of positions here in the next couple of weeks. I did want to let the commission know it will be on our social media outlets, on our web pages, and included in our weekly updates. So as you see those, if you have any questions, please let us know, but we ask that you disseminate those to the different agencies and organizations to help us with our recruitment efforts. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Comments or questions from commissioners on this item? Kat, if you could email me those positions, I'll put them on my social media pages for you.
Absolutely.
All right,
Thank you.
This is a receive and file, so there is no vote necessary. Moving on to item number 16. This is also receive and file the annual independent financial audit report of the San Bernardino International Airport Authority for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021. Mr. Cosano, please.
Thank you. We have Brad Willoughby, a partner, and Veronica Hernandez, the supervisors with Rogersons, Anderson, Malady, and Scott, or RAMS, our CPA and independent financial auditor. They met with the Finance and Budget Committee earlier today and are here to present a brief presentation to the commission. They are joining us remotely. And with that, they will discuss responsibilities and roles, audit process, the audit report itself and the results of the audit, as well as other key points. And with that, I will pass it off to Brad and Veronica.
Thank you very much, Mark. Good afternoon, members of the commission and everyone else in attendance here. We are from RAMS CPAs, and we performed the annual audit of the Airport Authority for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2021, and issued our report in December of 2021. And the results of the audit are very good. As Mark mentioned, we gave a presentation in more detail to the committee just in the previous hour, and we are going to give you a similar but slightly more summarized presentation here. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Veronica, who is in charge of managing this audit, and she will go over a presentation and will also entertain any questions you may have. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Excuse me, I was choking on some water, so my voice is a little bit. So I'm the audit supervisor on this engagement. I'm just going to share my screen very quickly. Oh, perfect, you have it. Okay. So we'll start with the second slide, please. So the responsibility of SBIAA is to present the authority's financial position and results of its operation fairly in conformity with generally accepted accounting principles, to adopt sound accounting policies, to provide reasonable accounting estimates, establish and maintain internal controls, and prevent and detect fraud. Next slide, please. Our responsibility is to obtain reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free of material misstatements, to examine on a test basis evidence supporting those amounts and disclosures, to assess accounting principles used, estimates made, and evaluate the overall financial statement presentation, and to review the authority's internal control policy procedures, and ultimately express an opinion on whether the financial statements are in presentation with GAAP. Next slide. Our audit process consists of an interim audit, which includes an internal control review and a detailed assessment. We update our understanding of the entity, review current internal control systems for the various cycles, and test controls. Our year-end audit is conducted on a sample audit of the financial records. We inspect the relevant documentation, make inquiries about policies, procedures, and transactions. We confirm our balances with third parties and perform analytical procedures. And lastly, we compile the financial statement data with no disclosures with the help of management and develop an opinion. Next slide, please. Our opinion is that the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. We issued an unmodified opinion. All significant accounting policies have been consistently applied. Estimates appear reasonable and disclosures have been properly reflected. Next slide. Other key points to note is that there were no disagreements with management, no material errors or irregularities were discovered, and no significant accounting issues were noted. Next slide. And this concludes our presentation. We'll be happy to answer any questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Victoria. Any comments or questions from commissioners on the presentation on the audit? Hearing none?
No.
Hearing none. This is a receive and file, so I want to say thank you to RAMS for their work on this, and to staff. Mike, you and your staff. This is a good audit. Thank you very much. Good work. Mr. Cosino, sharpen the pencil.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Moving on to item 17. This is approve amendment number 1 to professional services agreement with Hernandez, Kroon, and Associates in the amount not to exceed $50,000 for professional engineering services. Mr. Burrows, you're on.
Yes, and Mr. Cousineau did allude to this in the budget adjustment item. Hernandez Kroon is a local engineering firm that we have used on an on-call basis. And as you all know, we have a longstanding partnership with the San Manuel Band of Mission Indians. They are under construction with their landing project, or the landing, I should say. And we need to plan, check, permit, and inspect the various interties, particularly with our storm drains, our streets, and our sewer connection. And that is what HKA has been doing. We are essentially invoicing the San Manuel team as we go, as services are rendered and delivered, and they are reimbursing. So this is an in and out, but we're almost there and need a little bit more to get it over the goal line. So happy to answer questions.
Questions, comments from commissioners? Okay, hearing none, seeing none. Any public comment on this item, ma'am?
No public comment.
Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion. Motion by Councilmember Rigsby. Chair will entertain a second. Second by Mr. Charette to approve item number 17. Madam Clerk, if you would, please.
We have a motion by Member Rigsby and a second by Member Charette. Members, please state your vote for the record. Member Navarro?
Yes.
Member Rigsby?
Yes.
Member Rao?
Yes.
Member Lilburn?
Yes.
Member Valdivia?
Yes.
He doesn't get 2 votes, just one.
Member Valdivia?
Yes.
And Member Charette?
I'm in such a hurry to say yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to item 18. This is to approve change order number 1 with the Los Angeles Engineering for the City Creek Bypass Channel Repair Project for an additional $265,992.94, and accept construction as complete, authorize the release of retention, and authorize the submission of all closeout documents. Mr. Burrows.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Barrows, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. The proposed change order reflects additional escalated costs for construction material and labor and equipment. This project originally began in 2018. Delays were not caused by the contractor, but from obtaining the necessary permits from state agencies. The project is now complete. The release of retained funds is now warranted. Staff will prepare closeout documents to the relevant agencies. Recommended actions. Approve change order number 1 for Los Angeles Engineering for the City Creek Bypass Channel Repair Project for an additional $265,992.94, and accept the construction as complete, authorize the release of retention, and authorize the submission of all closeout documents. Staff recommends that the Commission approves the above actions.
Comments or questions from commissioners on item 18? No. Any public comment?
No public comment.
Thank you. The chair will entertain a motion to approve item 18.
Move it.
Moved by Councilmember
I'll
Rigsby.
second.
Second by Mayor Lilburn. If you would, please, Madam Clerk.
Yes, we have a motion by Member Rigsby and a second by Member Lilburn. Member Navarro?
Yes.
Member Rigsby?
Yes.
Member Rao?
Yes.
Member Lilburn?
Yes.
Member Valdivia?
Yes.
And Member Schreck. Thank you. Item passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 19. And this is to approve amendment number 1 to the professional services agreement with LSA and Associates Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $53,155 to conduct wildlife hazard assessment. Presenting this is Nicholas Person.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor. So as a Part 139 airport, the FAA requires us to maintain a wildlife hazard management plan. And one of those items is to have an airport wildlife biologist contracted with. So LSA Associates, we contracted with them last July. And this would be an amendment of that professional services agreement to increase that amount due to the necessity of a wildlife hazard assessment. 139 calls for certain triggering events in which that becomes a necessity, and one of those is an aircraft engine ingestion of wildlife, which we did unfortunately occur here at the airport. So that would simply be to continue the 12-month field studies that are required. At the end, we would have an updated plan with hopefully some updated methodologies to haze and mitigate against wildlife. So this would be for our CEO to execute that amendment. Thank you.
Comments or questions to presenter on this item? Seeing none and hearing none. Any public comment on this item, Madam Clerk?
No public comment.
Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion to approve item number 19.
Move it.
Moved by Councilmember Rigsby, second by Mayor Valdivia. Madam Clerk, if you would please.
Yes, we have a motion by Member Rigsby and a second by Member Valdivia. Member Navarro?
Yes.
Member Rigsby?
Yes.
Member Rao?
Yes.
Member Lilburn?
Yes.
Member Valdivia? Yes. And Member Charette?
Yes.
Thank you. Item passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 20. This is to award a contract to Presidio Network Solutions Group LLC in the amount of $88,071.44. Presenting on this is Mark Dennis. If you would, please.
Good afternoon. The core of the agency network consists of two large network switches that were installed in 2008. They have been deemed end of life by the manufacturer, and as such, will no longer be supported, and they will no longer provide security updates. Staff requested quotes for replacements from 4 authorized resellers and received 3 qualified proposals. Presidio was selected as the most cost-effective. Staff recommends approval of this item and be happy to answer any questions.
Comments or questions from commissioners?
Second.
Mayor Valdivia moves for approval. Councilmember Rigsby seconds. Any public comment on this item, please?
No public comment.
Okay, we will do roll call vote, please.
Thank you. We have a motion by Member Valdivia and a second by Member Rigsby. Member Navarro?
Yes.
Member Rigsby?
Yes.
Member Rao?
Yes.
Member Lilburn?
Yes.
Member Valdivia?
Yes.
And Member Charette?
Yes.
Thank you. The item passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 21. This is to consider and discuss the SPD Good Neighbor Program Quarterly Report for October through December of 2021. Mr. Gibbs.
Thank you, Mayor. As the airport continues to grow and evolve, bringing more aircraft activity and jobs to the region, we remain mindful of the fact that it may have unintended consequences to other entities within the region. And this program was developed, well, to be a good neighbor and provide resources, to provide a forum for feedback. And each quarter, we report out to you what those numbers look like, which we continue to collect on a daily basis. This is for the reporting period of October 2021 to December 2021. And here to walk you through it with us today is one of our partners in the Good Neighbor program, Miss Rosemary Barnes.
Thank you, Mark. Hello, everybody. Mayor Navarro, Commissioners, Mike, Mark, and everybody listening in. Thank you so much for having me back. Rosemary Barnes, Aviatrix Communications, reporting for the last 3 months of 2021 on noise comments from the community. We can go to page 4, please. Just want to walk you quick. Page 4. There you go. Thank you. We had some significant accomplishments for the last quarter of 2021 for the program. I was in person with you all in October, and as you're well aware, Amber shared that award that we brought back from Reno at the industry conference at Airports Council International. So again, just wanted to reiterate how elated we all were, I believe you were too, about the airport being recognized for our efforts for the Good Neighbor program amongst our airport industry peers. So congrats and thank you for your continued support for this program in support of our community. Last fall, we also published another edition of Good Neighbor News, and we actually did a template refresh. You'll see that on the right, just kind of freshened up the branding for the program about 18 months later from when we started. So that was good to do that, just give it another fresher look. We are working on the Winter 22 newsletter edition right now, so you'll see that in your inboxes next week. We were really pleased to be able to support the Redlands Veterans Day program and parade by placing an ad in the program. And for the SBDGoodNeighbor.com website, we have added a pop-up ad, so anyone that visits that website for the first time will get a prompt to subscribe specifically to the newsletter. So with that, we've been able to continue to increase our subscriptions for the newsletter, the quarterly newsletter. And in the last quarter of 21, we were able to increase those numbers by 12%. So we continue to see a couple hundred of newsletter subscriptions for that quarterly newsletter. Let's go to page 8, please. Getting into the data for the quarter of October, we had 19 noise comments filed by 11 households. Let's look at that next page 9, and what that breakout looks like. On page 9, here we go. So in October, we had more than half of the comments coming from the city of Highland, from 5 different households in that city, as you see there. And if we can go to the next slide, 10. For this, starting with this reporting period, we're showing you the comments by aircraft category. So in the community members have a chance to select the type of aircraft they're observing or they believe is creating the noise event that they're contacting us about. So whether it's a jet or propeller or helicopter, sometimes they don't know, that would be unknown, as you'll see in some following slides, or sometimes unspecified because they just don't know. So we're adding that category, starting with this reporting period. You see there comments by concern, flying over the home and unusually loud were the top 2 concerns filed in October, and of course then the filing method breakdown. Let's go to slide 11, please. In November, we did have a noticeable increase in comments. When we had 102 noise comments for that month filed by 7 households. Let's go to slide 12, please. Look at what that looks like. So of those 102 comments, 101 of those came from the city of Colton, from 6 specific households. Let's go to slide 13. And here's that breakdown. The commenters believe that jet operations were the number 1 aircraft that led them to file their concerns. Flying over the home unusually loud were the top 1 and 2 concerns filed, and you see we're approaching about 100% of comments filed online. And let's go to slide 14, please. So December, we dipped back down, 23 noise comments filed by 7 households. Next slide. Here's what that breakout looks like. Colton, we had about 80% of the comments filed by 3 households in the city of Colton. And slide 16. And here's that breakout again. Jet, aircraft, and unspecified, people just didn't know, were the top 2 aircraft categories. Concerns, again, continue to be flying over the home, unusually loud. And there's your breakout in the filing method. So let's go to slide, go to 17, please. And we're getting into the totals and trends year over year and quarter over quarter. So the fourth quarter, 21, absolutely. Aircraft are growing, and as Mark said, we have a different shift in the fleet mix. So larger aircraft, more noticeable, and that is causing concern by our neighbors. But again, we have this program to have them engage with us, for us to reach back out to them or for them to find us so we can educate them about what's happening at their local airport. Let's go to slide 18, please. And here's those total and trends for the last 3 months. 144 noise comments received from 23 distinct households. And again, cities of Colton and Highland leading those total comments received. Slide 19, please. And for this quarter, again, sharing some new data, we wanted to be able to share the top 5 households that we are hearing from. So we were able to ID them specifically through the data that we received through the reports. And you see there that the largest amount of comments come from 4 different households in Colton, followed by 1 household in the city of Highland. Slide 20, please. And again, totals and trends, just looking at the difference year over year. the last 3 months of year over year. We had 100 more comments for the last quarter in 21 compared to the 2020, and 10 more households filed concerns from between 2020 and 2021. And slide 20, go to 22, please. And again, that mix of aircraft category. You see jet, a little bit of helicopter there. And again, sometimes people just don't know, or they just don't state the information. Flying over home, unusually loud, the top 2 concerns, and then the breakout and with the web form being the primary choice. Let's look at that comment map on page 25. And again, a number of comments, with Colton being kind of the hot spot for this past quarter reporting period, and then followed up by Highland. And then we'll go to the final slide with the final thoughts. So quarter over quarter, or quarter on quarter, and year over year, number of comments are increasing, number of households are filing are increasing. We have a change in fleet mix, larger aircraft, aircraft operations for both cargo and, as Mark said, air taxi are growing. We have engaged community members. They want to learn more about what's happening with those aircraft overflying their homes, and they're finding us. They're finding us, and they're engaging with us. They want to learn about more about what's happening at their local airport. We're pleased this program continues to be an outlet for our community members. We're continuing to outreach to our pilot community to make them aware of neighborhood noise sensitivity. And we're pleased that this award-winning program continues to be available to our community members for them to engage with us and learn more, and for us to learn more about what's important to them. Thank you very much, and appreciate your attention. Any questions, please let us know.
Thank you very much, Rosemary.
Thank you.
Questions, comments from, go ahead, Penny.
Thank you. Micah, just a couple of questions. Frank, I wanted to say thank you for jumping ahead in the #1 spot in comments.
Nothing like
Appreciate
number
that. Do we have a curfew?
No, we do not.
So it's important to note that in 1992, the FAA came out with the Airport Noise and Capacity Act. And prior to that, curfews were something that could be instituted on a local level. But since that time, curfews are not allowed to interfere with interstate or intrastate commerce relating to aircraft activity. So you will see some airports that still have it, but it's grandfathered in. So they had an approved curfew system that was in place prior to 1992. Since that time, there have not been any, or can there legally be any, implemented in the United States.
Thank you for clarifying that.
You're welcome.
Rosemary, I have a question. You do Facebook outreach, is that correct?
Yes, we do. We
Okay.
four different social media programs.
When on our agencies here on the board, so let's say somebody goes on to the City of Highlands website and they're blowing it up about a question regarding the airport. Does that come to your Facebook post? Are you able to connect that and see when somebody goes to a city website on an airport comment? Are you able to see that and jump in and answer those questions?
Penny, I'll be happy to answer that one on behalf of Rosemary.
Thank you.
So as an agency policy, we don't comment on social media directly to noise commenters. Rather, what we try to do is encourage them to visit the Good Neighbor site, where we can measure those activities and really dive into their concerns in a way that's not as public. And we're happy to, pick up the phone, engage with whoever the commenters are. But I would encourage all of the cities that are part of this commission, please, if you have noise complaints, guide them toward the Good Neighbor site. We're happy to engage with them. We don't do it on social media, but we're happy to engage with them through the resources that were developed for the Good Neighbor program.
Okay, I will tell you, I do not jump in, and because I'm a lose-lose with that.
Thank you.
But I see this past week, we had some activity here, and Facebook was blowing up in our city, and I did not want to jump in and comment because, again, I don't do that on certain issues. But I was just wondering, do we just respond to noise comments, or do we respond to general questions on the Good Neighbor?
So on the Good Neighbor program, we don't really respond. I mean, we've got a database that tracks the concerns, and there's a form that'll stay with us that we can track and really digest and think through what the concern is, and then respond in an appropriate fashion with them. Sometimes they request a call back. Sometimes they just want to make sure that they're being heard and included in the site. And yeah, thank you for not commenting back. I mean, that's what we're here for. We're a resource for you, and as well as the other cities. We're here for you. We're here to help, and you know, we're familiar with all of these kind of intricate pieces when it comes to aircraft noise.
I was just thinking that maybe we could, sometimes we know something directly is going on, and we could just, you know, I want to answer, you know, we just want to put the word out there on the airport. If you see this is going on, this is what's happening. I don't know. I don't know if it would help, but I know it'd probably answer a lot of questions.
That's good
Everyone
medicine.
has their own theory out to, you should see some of the comments that people say that it's going on, and you just go, oh my goodness. So.
And that's a great point. And although we don't get all of them, particularly when we have Forest Service activity that we know is going to be significant, we do put notifications out. I can't say that we do it every time. And maybe we don't do it as often as we should, but we do try to get those messages out on.
Just a fuel for thought, maybe.
That's a great thought.
You know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we ever offer geography lessons to people from Pacoima? It's like the San Fernando Valley.
Yeah, it's a little ways away.
Yeah, so Rosemary, I have a question for you. In doing the data for the city of Colton, I know that a lot of those comments are because of noise, but can you kind of break it down for me as to what areas they're actually complaining about? Or Mark, whoever.
Mark, maybe you can do a deeper dive into that.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure that I gathered the whole question.
The question is, the complaints that were filed on the Good Neighbor site about the airport traffic, what categories are the complaints more related to?
Oh yeah, so that's a great question, and that's one of the metrics that we track closely. By and large, the number one category is flying over their home, and the number two is that they were loud. But yeah, that's one of the more popular concerns is simply the fact that the aircraft is over their home, and that's a growing trend. If you go back to the introduction of the 727 as a Stage 2 aircraft 45 years ago, everyone at the time thought that was going to be the end of noise concerns because the older aircraft were just so much louder. Well, we look back at a 727 today and say, oh my gosh, that's so loud. So a lot of it is simply perception. And if it's, there's plenty of ways to measure noise, but that does not address the concern of there's an aircraft over my home, and sometimes people just don't want it to be there.
Yeah, because I read some of the comments, you know, the Good Neighbor thing about that were filed from Colton, you know, and you hear him say, the noise is so loud, I thought a plane was going to fall on my house, you know. And, and incidentally, I was outside last night doing some work in the front yard, and I can't remember which plane it was, but coming in, I said, that plane is relatively low tonight. You know, coming in over, and they come practically over my house because that's the old flight pattern for Norton, you know, for the C-141s leaving and coming in.
You know, it's an interesting phenomenon too. The larger the plane is, the lower and slower it appears in the sky. And we have 747-8s operating out of here on a regular basis. And I had the same experience with my son. He said that plane looks like it's barely moving. Well, it's traveling at 160 knots, but it was a 747. It just looks like it hangs there in the sky.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for that. Any other comments or questions? Okay. And we come up to item number 22.
Okay, so thank you for that. We haven't had an agenda that thick in a little while, so appreciate your patience with us. So in the month of January, obviously, as we talked about, operational stats are all getting registered with the appropriate entities. We're also underway with our annual job count. So that kicks off in earnest in January, and that'll be presented to you as usual in the June meeting, but getting good support and response from our business community at the airport. So appreciate Jennifer and her team for getting going with that. So going into February, we are anticipating a few more budget adjustments, just coming out of some of the analysis that Cousineau and team have been doing. So you'll probably see some more activity there at your very next meeting. And we continue to engage very closely with the FAA on the capital projects that we've been teed up to pursue, particularly the runway repair project and the taxiway shoulder project, and getting very good support from them. So hopefully we'll have some good news for you going into February. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Burrows. And moving to item L, commission member comments. Mr. Charette. Mayor Lilliburn.
No, but maybe we should have like an open house for the community. Answer questions. I don't know, just a thought.
We certainly can.
And that's one of the elements of the program as envisioned. COVID kind of threw a wrench into some of that stuff, but we'd be happy to engage with you directly as well as.
In the terminal, and then we have a forum or something. We could try, but you guys really do all the answering.
How about we agendize that item?
Sure, we're happy to do it and get your feedback and thoughts. You all have had various occasions of that type, and yeah, certainly would do that.
Okay. Councilmember Rigsby. Mayor Valdivia? Thank you. Thank you. All right. Thereby.
And there are no public comments for the record, nor on Zoom.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, none.
Okay. Everything's behind me. Okay. So no other comments from commissioners? Hearing none? Seeing none? We are now adjourned.